You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the 2 best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Ferrall Coast to Coast, only on SportsGrid.
I talked about AZ Fudd a lot, folks, and said when she got back from that knee injury, remember, it's the second ACL tear she's had in her career, that she was going to be a difference maker. UConn is plus 330. They're not going to get challenged again in the Big East until they come out of conference play in a conference tournament. I still like them at plus 330 to win a national championship.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I feel when I look at this Arizona team, I don't take them serious as a national title threat because you're asking Caleb Love to bottle magic that I just don't even think exists.
4.4, 6.6, 7.4, 7.7, 7.8. This guy is literally taking, he'll shoot you out of games, Kevin.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you've got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Ferrall has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Obviously, you're going to want to get your hands on the SportsGrid app on iOS and in the Play Store on Android. Everybody's doing it. They just won't admit it. You can watch the network on the app. You can listen to the network on the app. It's got the TV side, the radio side. Follow your favorite hosts like Carver High. It's all there, plus in-game odds. You're going to love it. The SportsGrid app. Everybody has got it now, and they're all using it and loving life. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid. Hey, did you know we're on X now, streaming every day, 7 days a week? Streaming on X. Just go to SportsGrid-Live. Hey, did you know you can get the Ferrall Coast to Coast and Ferrall on the Bench podcasts? They're both available Monday through Friday on iTunes. The lineup tonight on SportsGrid after this at 6 to 8, it's Game Time Decisions with the Kevin Walsh. And then at 8 to 10 with my boy Wetzel and Sherapan, the law firm Opposite Picks and the sportsbook Consigliere. And then at 10 to midnight, it's Sports Rage with Morency. And on SportsGrid Radio from 8 to 10, it's Carver and Lisi, all tonight on SportsGrid TV and SportsGrid Radio. As we get into the second hour here, we're still talking about the NBA rack from last night.
Yeah, let's rip through the rest of these, and then we can start getting to tonight. Nuggets did beat the Pacers in Indiana, a career high. 19 dimes for the Joker last night on altitude.
Man in transition.
Inside, Christian Brown again.
Caught it in the air. Contest with that. It's 4.
Jokic under to Brown. He scores again. Christian Brown.
I mean, look at the numbers for Gordon and Porter and Brown and Murray. It's just every night now. This guy is just a machine. And we've said it a million times. It's like he doesn't even care. I mean, he legitimately could care less. It's like he's bored to death. He's so good at basketball that he's bored. Like, I don't even think it satisfies him at all in any capacity whatsoever. He finds no joy in it because it just comes so easy to him. I mean, the guy passes the ball like Magic Johnson. He really does. I mean, let's just get real here. He's the best passer in the league. Bar none.
It's amazing what he can do. And he was one board short of another triple-double last night. He's got more triple-doubles this season than he had in any of his 3 MVP seasons.
And meanwhile, they're saying he's not the MVP this year, but his numbers are better than all 3 years.
His numbers are better than all 3 years. And look, sometimes this comes down to, we have these discussions in every sport when we start talking about who's going to win the MVP. When you get a guy who's won it a bunch of times, is he being penalized because he's won it so much? Are they sliding him because they've already given it to him 3 times? Is that why there's, and this guy who's his biggest competition hasn't gotten it yet? You know, the same thing, Allen and Lamar, right? Lamar had a bunch of MVPs. Allen was the biggest competition. Now, I thought Allen deserved it. I think you did too. But it was like the same thing. Allen hadn't won one. Lamar had won a bunch. Let's give it to the guy who hasn't won before. SGA and Joker this year.
Yeah, but
look, it's like the same sort of thing.
I actually believed from the jump through belly to belly that Josh Allen was the MVP of the NFL this year. I got no problem with that. I think they are going to screw him. And I got a problem with watching him blow a 25-point lead last night and getting stuffed at the rack at the end. And not only that, not only did he get swatted at the end by Ann Edwards, who was playing on a bad calf and who had only played 4 minutes the entire quarter, but he also had a shot with 3 seconds left that he bricked. So they're handing him awards before they should be handing out awards. This other guy is a triple-double machine every night, and he's out dropping 19 dimes in a game that you're blowing a lead of 25. How about flipperoo? How about last night, Joker passed Shai Gilgeous for that MVP because he keeps doing it and keeps winning. And I know they are still a heavy lead in the West, and they're great, and he's incredible. But you cannot deny the guy's numbers are better now than when he won 3 of them. I mean, how do you not give him the MVP when he's that great now? He's gotten better. He's not even where he was. He's better. He's gotten better, and he doesn't even like playing basketball. The guy would rather be at the horse track getting drunk with his Serbian friends. That's a fact.
The 2 bodyguard brothers, too, right? The brothers that hang around with him, those guys. You want to mess around with those guys.
No.
We love big wagers. One bettor does believe in the Nuggets. This was at MGM. How about 25 large on the Nuggets to win the whole thing? A cool $350K back. Nuggets have won 10 of their last 11. Big bet on the Nuggets as we continue to move.
I mean, look at what they're doing. They're winning every night. They lost once. The Lakers beat them. It shows me how dangerous that 3-core Shakur is for the Lakers, and you're going to see it tonight.
Bulls beat the Sixers. They destroyed them in Philly. Now, look, both these teams suck. But I saw this late in the morning. I didn't get the clip of it. But then I saw all of them were kind of crying after the game. Paul George, who's done nothing for the Sixers
blaming
this year,
everyone else,
ripped the team. No sign of a team that will compete. That's competing. Maxey was upset after the game. Nick Nurse had no answers after the game. That is you talk about can't get to Cancun fast enough in 6 weeks. Betting against the Sixers on a nightly basis the next 6 weeks is going to be very good.
That's a great point, Mike. And secondly, how about this? They were better tenfold with Doc Rivers.
I agree.
I think that guy is the most overrated coach I have ever seen in my life. And they love him because he's white. And he did not win that title in Toronto. Kawhi Leonard won that title by himself.
He needs to thank his lucky stars that Kawhi Leonard spent a year in Toronto.
It made him rich.
It sure did. It made him rich indeed. He done a bad job with the Sixers this year. Bad job by the Nets as well. They lost to the Wizards last night. That was a bad job by the Nets. They even came back and took a lead in the second half and still lost by 8, which was awful. Hawks beat the Heat 98-86. Portland beat Utah, but Utah covered that number at home.
I told you that number.
And we'll also put the Hornets in the can't get to Cancun fast enough pile. They lost by 42 last night. They lose by 50 the other night in Portland? Like,
Tonight
they
they're
are
getting 17.
smashed on a nightly basis. Levine had 42 for the Kings in that win last night. So nice job.
Same thing's going to happen to them tonight. They're going to get obliterated on a back-to-back. That number's enormous, and they're going to cover. Get ready. You're going to see it. They're going to win by 30 at least.
The Heat aren't on that list. I got that best and worst against the spread. And the Hornets aren't on the worst teams. They will be within 2 or 3 weeks. The Hornets will join the Sixers, the Suns, the Heat, and the Pelicans, the worst teams against the spread. That's coming around the corner for them. That's for sure.
I agree. They're packing it in.
They are packing it in. Cavs have the best, by the way. Cavs, Grizzlies, Thunder, Raptors, and the Pistons for that. All right, we'll come back. I've got lots of games tonight.
Let me look at that. The worst. Look at the worst. The worst teams against the spread. There you go. And, I honestly, you're right. I think you're right. Like, I think you're going to see a shift in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Hornets are joining that list over the next couple of weeks because they are nailing
and the Sixers. They're already on it, the Sixers.
Sixers are the second worst. Only the Suns have been worse than the Sixers.
And the Bulls should be on there, too.
The Bulls aren't too far behind. We'll get to tonight's games when we come back. Lots of games, including Luka against the Mavs.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. It's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Ferrall coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
You get it all on C2C every afternoon from 3 to 6 Eastern on SportsGrid TV and SportsGrid Radio on SiriusXM channel 159. I mean, you name it, we're on every platform known to man, kicking ass and taking names. With Carver, hi, I'm Ferrall. We're in New York City. Good to have you with us. We're still talking NBA tidbits before we hit these games tonight.
Yeah, a couple things. Number one, the Warriors, who have been without Kuminga since January 4th, he had that ankle injury. It sounds like they're getting him back on Thursday night against Orlando. So we know what they've done. They're 5-1 since they got Butler in the lineup. They're going to get Kuminga back on Thursday too. So, of course, he's a good piece for them as well. Jaren Jackson Jr. is now in line to win the Defensive Player of the Year since Wembanyama can't win it by missing the rest of the games this year. The good news for him, Scotty, is that would mean if he wins, he'd be eligible for a $345 million Supermax deal.
I mean,
that's
come on.
a lot of money for Triple J. Triple J right there with a lot of dollars.
There is no way on earth that dude's worth $345 million. It's that simple. And not only that, he's not the Defensive Player of the Year. And not only that, I would put the Great Barrier Thief in front of him. And Wemby's obviously the Defensive Player of the Year, but he's not eligible because of the blood clot. But I don't deny that he's good. I don't deny that he blocks shots. I don't deny that he's a good defensive player. I don't deny that some nights he can have 28, 30 points. But the day that guy's worth $345 million, I may just be exclusively a high school and college fan. I can't be a fan of a sport that pays a guy that's not worth that money just for some stupid rule that he's eligible for it if he wins that award. That is just insanity. It's not worth that money. There isn't one executive in the NBA that would say that guy's worth that money. I mean, for my money, Joel Embiid isn't worth $200 million. He never plays. He's always injured. He's fat. He's out of shape. I think they talk about Zion Williamson. Meanwhile, this other fat galoof can't even run up the court and his knees are shot and they're giving him $200 million. We just said yesterday the money that guy's going to make over the next 4 years guaranteed is criminal. It's criminal. He won't even be playing in 4 years. I mean, the guy's shot. His body is shot. I'll give Jaren Jackson this much. He plays. I'll give him that. He plays.
And I wanted to check the numbers. By the way, the Great Barrier Thief had 7 more steals last night for the Hawks in that game. His numbers, he's third on the board at 7-1 to win the Defensive Player of the Year. Third on the Jackson's plus 120, Evan Mobley's plus 130, and Dyson Daniels is 7-1. He's the third choice on the board.
So what they're doing is they're saying that a block shot is worth more than a steal. And they're saying if a guy has 3 blocks a night, it's better than 7 steals. Now, what math class do you go to that they teach you that 3 is more than 7? That's end of discussion. End of discussion.
He might end up having.
Give me the Barrier Thief at 7-1. The guy has 7 steals a night, for Christ's sakes. He leads to. All right, so he leads to at least 14 to 20 points with his steals in transition. And what do the blocks lead to? Okay, so a block is at the basket. You still got to go the full length of the court and score. A steal can be anywhere, and it usually leads to a bucket. Would you be willing to admit that? Steals lead to buckets. Block shots lead to possessions.
Yeah, I would be willing to.
What don't I know about basketball? Honest to Christ. Let's stop with all this other nonsense.
He's the 5th player since 2000 to have 11 or more games with 5+ steals in a single season. He's having a historic year with the steals. I tell you,
no one even knows his name.
But that's the problem too, is no one knows his name, and so know how these awards go.
You cannot be hurt because no one knows who you are while you're out. Believe me, every single player and coach and assistant in the NBA and media that covers the NBA, that goes to games. I'm not talking about blowhards like you and me that think they know everything, that actually go to games and that watch games, knows exactly who that dude is. There isn't a player in the league that isn't scared of him when he comes sniffing for the ball. He's a steal waiting to happen. But you know what? I would hire him to steal, make movies, robbing banks. They got all the wrong actors. They need to get him involved in robbing some banks.
But here's why that 7-1's tasty right now, and I get it because he is starting to get a little traction because now he's hitting all these historic numbers, right? All these games with 5+ steals,
Right.
7 steals in a game. And as that wheel starts to turn, his publicity in that number is going to get lower. 7-1 for him. He'd be going to get a little closer to those two guys in the next few weeks. He keeps racking those steals up. Still 25 games to go. A lot of opportunity for him, maybe to get himself one of the best steal seasons ever in the league. And finally, of course, NBC continues to put their coverage together for next year. Noah Eagle, who's everywhere now. You see Noah all over the place with NBC.
He's everywhere. The Bird's son.
Bird's son. He will be part of their NBA team as well next year. We know Tarico's the main guy. Tarico, of course, will be the main NBA guy, but Noah will be involved too, calling games on NBC.
With
so congrats,
Reggie Miller and who's the other one?
Yeah. Well, they've started to build some guys in. I didn't remember who else they got for the color. Mello they got for the studio. Melo's doing.
Oh yeah,
studio,
Mello
so
in the studio. That was it. We've
so
reported on all these hires.
They're still building the tree, as you could say. All right, we got a bunch of games. We can't start one now. We'll come back, and we are starting tonight's games. Boston, Toronto, Milwaukee's in Houston tonight. Charlotte, as you said, big number in Golden State, and Dallas and the Lakers at the Crypto for Luka against the Mavs.
We have been hitting so many NBA bets lately. Honestly, we should be held in contempt.
Two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What? How do you do this once? Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. He's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Ferrall coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, let's hit these NBA games tonight. There's 6 of them.
Yes, there is. The Celtics are in Toronto tonight. Toronto tonight against the Raptors. Celtics on the road minus 11.5, 225.5 the total.
I got to be honest with you. You know, I know that Toronto covers all the time. They're one of the best covered teams all the time, but Every time I see this Boston team play, they just spread it out and destroy everybody. They just, they just do not F around. I don't think they're going to have a problem with the Raptors tonight. I really don't. I think they'll bury them too. They mean business.
I gave you those numbers yesterday about their last 5 wins. I mean, they've been smashing teams. Just double-digit wins, just hammering everybody. Probably more of the same tonight in Toronto. Remember this, they're playing Detroit tomorrow night, back-to-back. I don't know if that means maybe they would, pull the throttle down a little bit in the second half. I'm not sure, but they do have back-to-back both nights on the road. The Celtics do, Toronto and then Detroit.
They got their hands full tomorrow night.
They certainly do.
So tonight they'll win.
Tonight they're going to win tonight. Cleveland is in Orlando against the Magic. Of course, they played that 7-gamer in the first round last year. Cleveland minus 7.5 on the road, 220.5 the total.
This has got to be the dog day. This has got to be it right here. I'm going to take the Magic at the Kia with the 8 spot on TNT. This is going to be a game tonight. Banchero and your boy Franz Beethoven Wagner going to get a piece tonight. They're going to get involved with the Cavs down in Orlando.
I like the Magic tonight, too. I think the number's a little too heavy. I think that they'll have a little something for them tonight. The Bucks are in Houston against the Rockets. Rockets minus 3.5 in this one. Total 227.5.
I like the Rockets every time they play at the Toyota. They lose on the road. They don't lose at home. Let's see if they can handle Giannis and Dame time. And I think they can. I like them tonight at home.
Well, they do have Giannis as a probable tonight, so it looks like Giannis back out there for the Bucks in that game.
Let's go. Let's go. They both are going to get off, and they're going to do their thing. And let's see if the Rockets can pull away in the fourth and win it by 5.
Been a long trip here for the Suns. They've had a couple stops on the East Coast. Now they're back in Memphis as they're on their way home. Memphis minus 7.5 against Phoenix. 245.5. Big total tonight.
The Grizzlies are going to beat their ass. The Suns lose every game they play now. All they do is lose. So Memphis is tough at the FedEx on Beale Street. You know what I mean? Let's listen to some blues, go to the game, cover, drink some drinks, watch Ja. Let's go. No trade Ja. Let's go.
Spurs are in New Orleans against the Pelicans. Pelicans minus 2.5, 239.5 the total.
The Spurs are better. Give me San Antonio on the streets.
San Antonio on the streets. The Hornets, after getting blasted by 42 last night, catching 17.5 in San Francisco against the Warriors, who have been playing much better. 217.5 the total.
Well, that's why I said there were 6 games, because this isn't going to be a game. Every game they play in this trip has been an abortion. They are going to get lit like they got lit last night. This is going to be another one tonight. Dubs, lay it. Let's go.
And finally, of course, the Mavericks are in Los Angeles at the Crypto. Luka Doncic facing his former team for the first time. Lakers minus 9.5, 231.5 the total.
I got to do it. I just got to. I think they'll win by 15. I just think it's going to be a show. I think that Luka Doncic is going to put on a show with LeBron James and Austin Reeves tonight, like you read about. And I think when they play in Dallas, they're going to lose. But when they play this one tonight at the Crypt in Lipstick City, I'm going L.A. Lake Show. Lay it.
I'm taking the Luka triple-double. I've seen it at plus 370, plus 380 in that range. I'm going for that. I'm not going to try to get those 31 points. I'm just going to go. I think he's going to try to fill everything up tonight on the stat sheet. So just the triple-double for me in that game this evening.
I won't be surprised at all if he does that and more. Are there other ways to impress? There sure are. At PRA, at points. All of it. Give me all of it tonight.
Brady Tkachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Tkachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Tkachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Ferrall coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
So we go into college rack now, and can I just say, I don't know how you're going to do this in terms of last night, but I just wanted to say real quick. I mean, honestly, of the stragglers, the Wilmington hit, it just went on from there. North Florida hit against Gulf Coast. We hit that. It kept going. North Carolina hit, and then how about South Carolina State hit? And it wasn't done. It was the Texas Southern game we also gave you. And I know I lost Texas Tech and Nebraska. I can live with that when I hit all the other ones. I got no problem with that. If I hit all the stragglers and lose two big games, I'm all right with that.
Yeah, the stragglers definitely came in for you last night. As far as a couple of the big games went, number 4 Houston beat number 10 Texas Tech 69-61 down in Lubbock. Now, Texas Tech was missing a couple of their best players, Chance McMillan, Darian Williams. They were not there. Both those guys played big roles when they beat Houston a few weeks ago down at their place. Here's Kelvin Sampson, happy for the big win, but does know Tech was very banged up, but he'll take it.
For us to do what we did tonight was great, but there's also an asterisk as far as I'm concerned. I don't sit here and beat. I mean, I think we've won. I think I saw where we had run 19 out of 20 or 20 out of 21, something like that. And we've beaten a lot of good teams. One at Arizona, one at West Virginia, one at Kansas. I mean, we got a really good team. But so does Texas Tech when they're healthy. They're really good too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And last night they didn't have it, so of course Houston took advantage of it and beat them. One other one I forgot to mention that we were on in a big way was Lipscomb, and they got it done over Austin Peay on the road, and they beat their ass, and they covered that 8 easily. I mean, it was like 95-78. I mean, they rocked them, and we smelled that one coming too. That was another one we hit.
Michigan beat Nebraska, quite the rock fight in Lincoln, 49-46. North Carolina, as you mentioned, beat FSU 96-85. A lot of people were thinking that maybe missing the tournament might send Hubert Davis out of town. That's not going to happen. The report came out today. He signed a new extension in December that's going to keep him there till 2030. So he ain't.
That's
he ain't
insane.
leaving.
That's insane that the last 2 years they don't make the tournament, and then this year they're on the bubble for sure, and they still extended him when the whole world was talking about him getting chopped. He's out cutting a new deal with folks in Chapel Hill. They like him.
They do like him. And Kansas late night did get the win, and for most people, some people, the cover. We had 6.5. I know that if you had 7 or 7.5, it was very unfortunate there. All right, couple other things before tonight. You sent me this yesterday. I never got to it. The top 30 freshmen in college basketball this year. Obviously, you know who number 1 is. It's Cooper Flagg from Duke. Look at him go. Harper's on this list. Trey Johnson from Texas. Ace Bailey, both. Liam McNeely, UConn. Several really good freshmen this season so far in college rack.
I mean, I think McNeely can really play for a white boy as well, and he doesn't get the national attention that Flagg gets. But, I watched him play St. John's, and he was all over the court. He did a lot of things in that game, I thought, on both ends of the floor. He was diving for balls. He can shoot. He can handle the rock. I wish he would have gone to Indiana. He pulled out on Indiana and went to Connecticut, and he's playing for Hurley, which I think is the smarter decision. I think he did the right thing. I just wish he would have stayed at Indiana where he said he was going to go. If he was on that Indiana team, they might finally have someone that can shoot. There's one thing about that team I don't like for certain is that they cannot shoot the pill at all. I think Indiana's a porous shooting team from 2 and from 3. They're disastrous. They just can't hit shots. They can play defense. I'll give them that. They're relatively effective defensively. That's the only reason they've won 16 games, because they sure don't score and they sure don't shoot.
And I thought that this tied in nicely. Not only is Cooper Flagg number 1 on the top 30 freshmen this year, but he's also number 1 on the odds board for the Wooden Award, which, of course, is the biggest award in men's college basketball. He's minus 165, but Broom's right there with him. He's been real good for Auburn, too. That's not a done deal yet with those two.
Well, what's amazing to me is one guy's 23 years old and the other one's 18. Okay, so there's no comparison between the two as far as I'm concerned. Just remember, this kid, at every level, from grade school through prep school, through high school, college, he should be in high school. He's playing at Duke, and he's the most dominant player on that team, and he's going to win that award, and he's going to go to the Final Four because he makes everyone around him better. And not only that, he can fill it up and dunk and do all this other stuff. He really likes to play basketball and feed people and make buckets happen. He's a great player. He passes the rock. He screens. He rebounds. He blocks shots. He dunks. He's better than Broom. And he's 5 years younger than him. It's embarrassing. This kid is so good. You understand? He should be a senior in high school. He's already they're frothing at the mouth in the NBA for this guy. Frothing
Amazing.
At the mouth.
They are. They certainly are. A lot of teams losing lots of games, hoping to get a shot.
Don't go to New Orleans. Go back to Duke, kid. Play another year. What do you have to lose? Nothing.
Indeed. Half the teams in the preseason top 10 are now unranked in this week's poll. Kansas, UConn, Gonzaga, Baylor, and North Carolina, all not even in the top 25 anymore, and they were all in the top 10 before it started. It's a long road.
I got to be honest. I think of all those teams, UConn is the toughest. They are decent.
Yes.
They got whacked by St. John's, but they are decent. They can play with anybody. And they're well coached. And they're ready for games. And they got talent. I do not like any of those. The second best team on that rack is Kansas. And they've been a mess. They do not deserve to be ranked. But they still have coaching and talent. So they're going to squeeze them into the NCAA tournament, both of those teams. And from that point, as you like to say, look out. Because when you got the coaching and the talent, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. Auburn and Duke are still the favorites at the top of the board. 3-1 for Auburn, plus 425 for Duke. Houston, Florida, Bama, Tennessee, Iowa State. St. John's 25-1 now, as they have gotten themselves up the board.
I'm gonna put those three teams defensively, Duke, Houston, and St. John's, into the Final Four because of their defense.
Wow.
And it's crazy to say, but for me, the other two, it's going to come down to, Auburn and Florida. And as an outsider, as a shot, I would say the two creepers would be Alabama and Missouri. But I think Alabama has a better team talent-wise and coaching. I like Oates over Gates, so I would say Alabama's the creeper team. The horror movie team. They got an outside creeper team shot for me.
And you sent me that story this morning. I thought it was very interesting that Pitino and Coach K both suggested that the Big East and the ACC should merge. Obviously, that would mean basketball schools, because the Big East is all basketball schools. Nobody plays football in there. But I've also seen some opposition to that could cause some bigger problems. Instead of merging, they'd swallow up the good ones, UConn, St. John's, Villanova, and some teams like Seton Hall and Providence might get left out in the cold if something like that happened. Just keep the Big East together. No.
Well, look, I don't have a problem with it. I think the conferences and their commissioners and their ADs like the idea, because look at St. John's. Look at their record. Look how good they are. And they're a 4 seed. They're a 4 seed because no one respects the Big East like they used to. Those days are over.
Brady Kachuk saying that if his brother did miss that overtime period against Canada like we saw him do, it must be serious out there. And of course, Brady Kachuk, not a doctor, but you've got to wonder the status of Matthew Kachuk and what we're going to find out.
Game time for all of these teams and all these players that were, teammates. Now they're facing off against each other. Now they're back to being teammates, whatever it might be. Like, it's time to get things rolling back in the right direction.
HL today, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not being the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Yankees? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You have Duke the 1, Houston the 2. They're the two best defensive teams in the country. I want to see them play for the right to go to the Final Four because I think that would be a kick-ass game.
Duke is really great on both ends of the floor. They can score and they can defend, and that's why they win by big numbers all the time, because they're really good on both ends of the floor. I don't trust Houston's offense.
Ferrall coast to coast, only on SportsGrid. The Eagles got it done. If you back them, you're celebrating. Football season may be over, but the action never stops.
Are you ready for some baseball?
At SportsGrid, we're always in the game. We bring you 24/7 betting insights, expert picks, and real-time analysis. Next big play is already in motion. Are you ready? It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, Mike, before you give me these games tonight, I got to get your opinion of it. Like, do you think that St. John should be a 2 or a 3 seed? And do you think that they don't respect the Big East anymore like they used to? Because that's a great basketball team. And they're, right now, like Lenardi's got him as a 4. I know Luke is saying other guys like Palm and DeCourcy have him as a 3. I think Mike said today he's got him as a 3. But I had a guy ask me today, why aren't they a 1? Why are they not a 1? They're dominant. They have won. They're like the Houston Cougars and the St. John's Red Storm are the 2 hottest teams in America playing college basketball. Let me tell you right now. And I'd say Duke's, right on par with them.
Look, I think when all this stuff moves in cycles,
they lost to Clemson.
I think this just happens to be a year where the Big East is a little down. A few years ago, the Big East had 7 teams in their league get in. And, UConn was a 1. Creighton was a 2. It's just one of those years. It moves. Now the SEC, this is the first. The SEC never had this much talent and this many good teams. And now this year, they're the king of the castle. Big 12 was for a while. I think it's just the way it goes. If St. John's wins the regular season in the Big East, which they're in line to do, and they win the Big East tournament at Madison Square Garden, I personally think they can get as high as a 2 seed. I think that they could be a bottom 2 or the top 3. They're ranked in the top 8 right now, 7th or 8th in the nation right now. I think if they do those things and they're the kings of the Big East, regular season and conference tournament, they will be on the 2 line on Selection Sunday. They will be a 2 seed in the NCAA
No one's beating them at the Garden.
I don't think so either. I think they're going to win the Big East tournament this year. I think they're the best team in the conference, and I think that, like you said, the conference is, it helps that it's a little weaker this year. That middle to bottom isn't as strong as it's been in years past, and that's why they're not already in that 2 conversation, and that's why all these SEC teams are blasted up because everybody's so good this year in that league. St. John's going to be fine. I think that, when you
Danger.
talk about being a 2, though, that's, who are you going to be matched up with,
Danger.
right?
Danger.
Well, it's, look, 2's obviously an easier road, quote unquote, than being a 3 or a 4, but, eventually you got to play heavies. So eventually it all comes down to what 1 are you with? Are you with Duke? Are you with Auburn? Are you with Florida? Are you with, that's
Bring it on. Bring it on. I
But-
want to see Duke play St. John's. Now, I know that, I can sit here right now and break down where they're going, but what DeCourcy said made a lot of sense to me. Play in Providence, then play in Newark. If they play in Newark, you just pretend like you're in New York City. It's 5 minutes over to water and a couple of crack pipes.
If they're a 2, they won't be in Newark. Like Mike says, they got to stay on that line because Duke's going to be I would think, in Newark because usually they're on that East Coast. And
I don't think that
they would.
I'm going to the games, Luke. Let's go.
I don't think that they would penalize Duke by making them play St. John's in the New York City area in the Elite Eight. I don't think that they would do that to them. I think that they would send St. John's somewhere else if Duke's the one in that region.
Meanwhile, every year they let Duke play in Greensboro.
I know, but that's just the way it goes. And let's see where it all shakes out.
All right.
But I think that they're going to be a 2 by the time we get to a couple Sundays
from now. What do you got
now.
tonight?
Let's go tonight. Speaking of Duke, we'll start with them because they're, as usual, with a lot of these teams in the ACC this year, they are laying heavy lumber and on the road tonight. Down in Miami, South Beach, 22.5 against the Canes on the road. Look out. Florida is in Georgia tonight. Providence visiting Marquette. Baylor and Cincinnati. Both of those teams kind of hanging around. 16 win. They're both 16-11. Winner of that game is going to be in much better shape than the loser.
Yeah, look, obviously it's a huge game. I got to be honest, I've been disappointed in Baylor. I like Cincinnati tonight at home to win that game and win by 3 or more. I like Marquette at home. Providence stinks. I like Marquette at the 5-serve. They need to have a good game. Florida's going to win at Georgia. They're flat out, 20 points better than Georgia. Florida's no joke. I know there's all this cocktail party. Don't be tripping. That's football. This is basketball, and they are legit. Remember, if you will, let's go back to that game. Do you remember the night we took Miami in 24.5, and they lost by 25 to Duke, right? Something like that in the first game?
Mm-hmm.
Miami is awful. Honestly, awful. And Duke should spank their ass, belt to ass tonight in Coral Gables. I don't care where the game is. Duke has got to annihilate them tonight. Honestly, I know they're hiring their new coach. Isn't he the guy from Duke? I think he's the assistant at Duke. Is getting that job.
Is that who they're hiring? They're going to take the guy off the Duke staff? Yeah. Well,
yes.
He can watch Payne tonight as his old team going to beat up on the Hurricanes this evening. I'd lay it with Duke. Miami stinks. I'm willing to lay it. Georgia Tech is at Pitt tonight. Pitt laying 8.5. We also have Northwestern in Minnesota. Iowa State visiting Stillwater to put a beating on the Cowboys. Tennessee on the road at LSU laying a fat number on the road.
Okay, so I like Pitt tonight at home against Georgia Tech, but they're both awful. I could see Georgia Tech covering that number. Pitt's just not that good. So that number to me is a little juicy. Minnesota is going to win at home at Williams Arena. Garcia and company get it done against the Cats. Iowa State is going to demolish Oklahoma State at Iowa. I'm sorry. I saw them against Kansas lose by 35 on the road. They can't win. They're awful. Tennessee's going to win at the Maravich tonight against LSU. They are 12 to 15 points better than LSU. LSU's not going anywhere. Tennessee is 10 times better than LSU these days. I'm telling you, that's happening as well. I'll tell you this kid's name, too. It's Jai Lucas from the Duke staff is getting that job at Miami. That's a done deal. He's replacing Larinaga. Jai Lucas, know that. It's going down as sure as I'm sitting here.
Well, God bless and good luck to him in Coral Gables. We'll come back. We have 2 more racks
He'll have a great
of tonight's games.
He'll love the food.
No doubt.
They got great taco trucks down there in Miami.
Is that kind of helpful when it comes to preparing for a major? Is that you're just like 1 foot in front of you at this point?
Ideally come to a place here at Bay Hill where I've had good success in the past. I've only played it the last 21, 2, 3, and 4. But I've played it well, and I really like that we're heading there with where I'm at right now. I think it's going to tell me a lot.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
We know the Knicks are talented. They're 37-20. It's not a bad season by any stretch. They're just not beating the upper echelon team.
This is the Knicks team right now. They're a very good team. And I'm a Knicks fan. You can't look at there and say, this team can win a championship. They're not good enough. They're not good enough defensively. Are we the New York Knicks or are we the New York Fugazis? Just forget about it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Big news out of New York. Mitchell Robinson cleared for 5-on-5. OG Anunoby cleared for 5-on-5. That's big news for the Knicks as they start to get themselves healthy. It's about constructing the right roster, the combination of veterans, young guys, and transfers.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I guess this is the battle for second place in the NBA's MVP. It's been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He was like minus 250 a couple months ago. Then last month it was 3-1. He's now up to minus 440 here.
Voter fatigue is a real thing, but there is a chance for him to maybe go on a hot tear, go on a stretch that maybe opens the conversation back up a little bit. I wouldn't say Shai's completely out of the woods just yet.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, so let's go to the next rack of ribs as we look at college rack for tonight and some juicy ones.
Yeah, a few of the later tips here, including a real good one in Tuscaloosa. Mississippi State and Alabama tonight. The Tide, of course, laying it at home. Wisconsin has Washington coming in some real big lumber there. 2 tutties and a hook for that game. South Carolina is in Missouri tonight, and Louisville visiting Virginia Tech, who stinks.
Yeah, look, these games to me are chalk. Alabama's going to win and cover. Wisconsin, after losing to Oregon and blowing a 17-point lead in the second half, is going to take it out on a crappy Washington team, as sure as I'm sitting here. Missouri's going to spit all over South Carolina at Mizzou Arena. They're going to kill them in Columbia. Louisville's going to win at Va-Tech and cover as well.
And final rack, TCU is in Morgantown tonight. West Virginia -7.5. Iowa into Illinois. Illinois, of course, has been hammered their last few times. I saw them saying that they're starting to get a little healthier from all their flu problems. They're laying a big number at home. We also have this evening New Mexico into San Diego State. Really good game in the Mountain West, -2.5 for the Aztecs. And Gonzaga laying 6.5 on the road in Santa Clara tonight.
Yeah, Santa Clara hasn't been good, so I'm taking the Zags in that game at Clara. And West Virginia's going to win in Morgantown at the WVU Coliseum. And then Iowa, I've been hearing that Fran McCaffrey's on thin ice in Iowa City. So they're going to lose at Illinois. Champaign tonight will be rocking. The Illini will win and cover and get it done at home. Now, here's the real story. Last night, I called the young gun at San Diego State. I interrupted him in the middle of his, partying and college life. They got a lot going on there. They're smoking, they're drinking, there's women involved. You call them on the FaceTime, there's women in the room. There's all kinds of things going on. And I said, listen, I'm calling to buy you a ticket to see Rich Pitino's Lobos come into the Viejas and take on the Dutch Oven. Your boy, Brian Dutcher and the Aztecs. They lost a big game over the weekend. They have to win this game tonight. They're 18-7. They have to win this quad one game against New Mexico at home at San Diego State, or they're not going to the NCAA tournament. New Mexico's already a lock from the Mountain West. They're going to win the conference. So I bought him a ticket to the game tonight. He's going to see this one, Lobos and Aztecs. And I'm going to take the Aztecs tonight because they have to get it done Desperado style against the Lobos. Give me the Aztecs at the Viejas. Tacos are on Ferrall for everybody.
And New Mexico, 14-2 in the Mountain West this year. They have had an unbelievable season.
14-3 after tonight.
Yes, 14-3 after tonight.
They just
-2.5
lost to
for
Boise
the
State
Aztecs.
on the road. No one saw that coming.
Yeah. Nope. Lots of straggler games if you want them. Colorado State.
I'm hearing
Air
that
Force.
Rice guy, Mike, at Boise State might be the new Utah coach. I'm hearing that.
I mean, they just did. They hired a guy from Utah State. They fired him 4 years later. Can you go find someone from another conference? Keep hiring these Mountain West guys. Get somebody.
What are you doing?
Can we get somebody else?
What are you doing?
Is there anything else you want here? There's MAC games.
Oh, yeah.
There's
yes.
a couple of the late night games.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Look, there are other games I like. Obviously, I like, how about Wyoming and Nevada in Reno? Can I take the 13 and a hook Rogie Vachon style with the Cowboys on the road tonight to cover the number? I like Colorado State to whack Air Force in Colorado Springs. What else? I like Illinois State to win at SIU at Southern Illinois on the road. I like Murray State over Indiana State at Murray. I like Troy laying 1.5 at Texas State. I love James Madison against Monroe to cover laying 13. You heard me. I'll take Army in the 4 at Lafayette. And how about this one? VCU and Richmond. Give me the 14.5 with a crappy Richmond Spider team. They hate each other's guts. They will foul every time VCU goes to the 10. Violence is certain. That's going to be a better game than you think. And I love Miami of Ohio again at home over NIU, the Red Hawks in Oxford. Let's go.
We will come back. There's a lot of hockey games tonight, and then I've got a lot of stuff from the Combine down in Indy that we still have to get to.
Oh, yeah, here we go.
Very
Let's
busy.
watching guys jump and run the 40. Where's Rich Eisen when you need him?